Welcome back to Daily Devotions, and today we are in Matthew chapter 14. In fact, we are at the halfway mark of the book of Matthew. It seems like we just started, but we're halfway there, so that's pretty cool. We're making progress. And man, Matthew 14 has some pretty epic stories, some pretty epic accounts. I mean, it's hard to decide what you want to talk about. You talk about the death of John the Baptist, you can talk about the feeding of the 5,000, or you can talk about Peter walking on the water. And so I want to touch on each of those things briefly. You know, it's fitting that at the end of the last chapter, Jesus says, a prophet's not without honor except in his own town. And then immediately segues Matthew's gospel into the death of John the Baptist, great man, and is killed over nothing. Like, really. I mean, over a vendetta, really. And then it's just a crazy story. Like, we can't really get into it as much, but so I think that's an interesting connection there. But then you get to the feeding of the 5,000, which is insane. What the Lord can do with what little we have to offer. And then we get to Peter walking on the water. And something that has always stuck out to me in Matthew 14, in verse 30, it says, "But when he saw," this is Peter, after he steps out in faith onto the water, after he sees Jesus walking on the water, Jesus says, "Come." But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." Some other translations say he was afraid of the storm that was around. He was afraid of the storm on the sea when he saw the storm on the sea. Now, a lot of folks will say, hey, here's the problem. Peter took his eyes off of Jesus, and that's what makes him sink. And so you need to not take your eyes off Jesus in your walk with him. Keep your eyes focused on him. Okay, that's all really good advice. Keep your eyes on Jesus. But I don't believe that's why Peter started to sink. Why do I not believe that? Because in verse 31 it says this, "And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, caught him, and said to him, 'Oh, you of little faith, why do you doubt?'" It's not so much that you take your eyes off Jesus is the problem. Is when you start to doubt the Lord is when you really get into trouble. The scriptures actually never say that he took his eyes off Jesus. They only say that he saw the storm and was afraid. And you could still see a storm in your peripheral, even though you're trying to keep your eyes on the Lord, you can see all your troubles in your peripheral. And so what you do when you react to those troubles, when you react to those storms, is what decides what happens next. Are you going to let those things make you doubt the fact that the one that you're keeping your eyes on has the power to keep you above those waves? Or are you going to let those storms make you afraid, and then in your doubt you'll start to sink? And so there's the problem right there. We need to not doubt that Christ is with us through those storms. And we need to keep our eyes on him, but more importantly, we need to put our faith in him. And so that is what I have for you today. And I will see you tomorrow in Matthew chapter 15.